Okay, okay. I think I am live now. That was difficult to see for me anyway. I am reading out of Life in Spirit. It's Harry Edwards' account of the afterlife. He was a renowned healer and an author. He ran a sanctuary in Surrey, and he says in the sleeve notes, "This is the story of John and Mary. Any John, any Mary, brother and sister, husband and wife, sweethearts, friends, the story of you and me. But with this difference, John and Mary have died and have entered into their new life in spirit." In other words, they are no longer with us. They hadn't been even in 1976. And it shows here a picture of a 5,000 people crowd in the Royal Albert Hall, London, to see Harry Edwards give a healing demonstration to mark his 80th birthday. You can't see much, it's black and white, but he was obviously a very renowned healer and much appreciated in his time. Chapter 14, The Way of Service. John and Mary were enjoying a conversation, for they now could exchange thoughts and be conscious of each other's mind, intentions. But they found it more pleasant to let their thoughts be framed in spoken words. The process was slower, but it had the advantage of hearing oneself speak and the voice of a loved one. John was speaking and wonderingly asked, "How long a time, by earth standards, have I been in spirit life? I seem to have done so much and to know so much more about life, appreciating more and more deeply the affinity between ourselves and other forms of life and substances as well. I'm looking for a way out, for something to do, a contribution in which I can join with others, to give some form of service and to make a contribution to the furtherance of knowledge. But how can that be with so many other more learned folk there than the two of us? With so many other learned folk there are than we two." Mary consoled her partner, saying to him, "John, we are very close to each other, and I have seen the unrest and questioning in your mind. I too share your ambitions. We are so compatible that I am a strength to you as you are to me. I do not know how long in earthly time we have been together again, but if we knew, we would be surprised at the extent of earth time which has passed. What does it matter, though? We have travelled a good deal. We have seen so much in different directions, the way in which people live, the care for the children, the arts and sciences, the lives of service which others give. And what service can transcend the love and devotion of those who care for new arrivals into this life, whether it be of the unborn child or the mentally tortured soul who knows only fear? With all this, it seems we have only just begun to live again there. There is so much we do not know, and we must not expect to know everything at once." John broke in to say, "Do you remember the story we were told of the student's story of the goldfish?" Mary nodded. "I feel like that student, but I haven't even got a goldfish." Eventually they agreed to ask the advice of the master of their area of living. When the opportunity came, they travelled near to the city, where halls of learning rose high above the rest of the buildings. They were attracted to a house a little way outside the confines of the city, as if a magnet was drawing them to it. Surrounding the house was a truly wonderful garden, with an exuberance of flower blossoms, some of which they had not seen before. As they walked through the garden, spellbound with the feeling of affinity with the scent and feelings the flowers exuded, they were met by the master, who led them to a small circular enclosure with a round seat facing inwards. John and Mary were invited to sit down with the master. "I observed you enjoying my garden," said the master, "and I am pleased to see you have found the way of companionship with the flowers. Study them well and live with them close to your heart, and you will find that your garden can be even happier than this one is for me. I know your problem and why you have come to see me, hoping I can give you a lead as to the best direction to take in life to suit you. I observed you are young in life here, but you have advanced well in understanding the principle that life here is one thought and purpose. There is an affinity between all the things we use and have reason to possess. Life is an evolvement towards spiritual progression and divine perfection, which is attainable but rarely fully reached. You have found out that life here is not one of idleness and selfish ease. Here there are endless opportunity. There is no limit to achievement, but whatever you accomplish can only follow one piece of knowledge added to another. There is no shortcut to advancement. You will have noticed there is no need of compulsion for anyone to work. But if one did, there would be no reason for a spirit world. But if no one did, there would be no reason for a spirit world. We achieve the things we do as contributions to God's service in the effort to master evil. No one receives wages or any other form of reward except the love of service to the common weal in the spirit of service to each other for the devotion we have for each other. Let me lay before you the main avenues of service. The love of garden and horticulture provides one of the easiest and very satisfying form of service. When I speak of ease, this does not undervalue it, for all service is equal. You love flowers clearly and speak with them, but this would not satisfy you, otherwise you would not wish for this interview. You will need changes as you go on, for change is the way of spiritual progression. There are the different ways in which you can cultivate the knowledge of the beautiful and the arts. You have been into a few of the halls of learning of the arts. You have only been able to look in the doorway. You have not seen any more than that which a visitor would. You have been in the hall of fabrics and design, and a hall of science, and while your desire for greater knowledge of all these things has been appreciative, not any subject has taken hold of you, giving you an irresistible desire to go further. You have been into the animal lands, and you have seen how new arrivals from early life are welcomed here, not forgetting the coming of the new lives. You have seen a little of spirit life. But there is another aspect I would like you to see. I know you wish to give service together, and from the message I received from Beulah, you may well find happiness and satisfaction in a service which will give you a great need for patience, compassion, mind concern, and soul searching. I know that the Master paused for a few moments to give both John and Mary a little time for his words to be fully appreciated, and then, almost simultaneously, his two visitors said together, "Please tell us about it." So the Master continued, I suggest you engage on is one which the endeavor I suggest you engage on is one which occupies the attention of some of our most learned and skilled doctors and psychologists, who are indeed priests of God, working under conditions closely related to unhappiness, degradation, and evil. Until you have gained knowledge and experience, you will be observers, and from that you will find yourselves associated with the less difficult cases of mental unbalance. In this way, you will commence your experience to take part in one of the most progressive and good movements the higher masters are engaged in. Before I speak further, I must tell you that at any period of your observance and cooperation, you will always, at your own request, be able to return to your home retreat until you feel the urge to return. And should there be no desire to return, so be it, and you can then look around afresh. Earth life is, as you know now, but an apprenticeship for this life, and owing to the laws which pertain to the physical dimension, these breed all manner of humankind. Apart from the majority of entering souls possessing a love of justice and a service of compassion and sympathy, who would not willingly hurt a neighbor or an animal, there are those who are born with genetic weaknesses and undesirable tendencies. There are those who only serve themselves and prey upon a gentler community. There are others who are mean and small-minded, the sadists, the ruthless, the seekers of power, no matter whom they hurt, the vicious and the lovers of evil. All people arrive here with the same outlook as they had at the time of their transition. No one becomes a saint on entry. They come as they really are. Those who are good join the forces of good, and those who lack all spirituality add to those who are evil. There is, of course, no rigid division between the two. There is a wide section where the newcomers are not really good or bad, and much of our efforts are spent in helping those in no man's land to come to us. It may be that some have to fulfill contributive penance for consciously hurting someone or for a premeditated act of malevolence. At the other extreme are those who are so depraved they enjoy being wicked, finding their own kind of evil happiness in hurtful acts and villainesses. These try to induce others, not so evil as themselves, to join in with them, just as we use all our influences to bring over to the side of the righteous as many as we can. I recommend you go and see what is taking place. You will be well received and guided. Everything will be explained to you. Your work will commence with the simplest problems. Very few humans arrive here with any knowledge of spirit life. Some find it so strange they think they are still in earth life, but in some way they have been sent into another part of the earth. They'll all have to be taken under care, and both of you, John and Mary, could well find this your beginning how to help. There are a great number of spirit people who were once earthly social workers, doctors, priests, and others who now work together as one in showing newcomers the way out of their strangeness, difficulties, and perplexities. To show them by demonstration they are no longer ill or crippled. They take away their fears that they are suffering from cancer, heart weakness, and so on. To show them their fears cannot now be true. It is not easy to convince some arrivals they no longer need food, but if they become too persistent, they find they cannot eat food when it is put before them. In another direction, you can travel in experience and wisdom onto the very difficult task of getting a newcomer free from the captivity of what are termed earth-bound spirit people. These are usually most unhappy, vicious, earth-attracted souls who cannot free themselves from earthly life conditions. Let me, as a little reward for your patience, tell you of a comparatively recent happening. A young hospital nurse was helping a victim suffering from possession when an unhappy entity saw an opportunity to transfer himself from possessing one of the nurse's patients into the mind and body of the nurse. For 10 years she suffered the indignities of listening to bad thoughts, both sexual and blasphemous. Her health suffered, and she was near the verge of a severe nervous breakdown. Her husband, a kindly, patient man, took her to one of our earth friends and servants called a spiritual healer. This healer sought our help for his patient, and this was given, but nothing could dislodge the evil entity from his victim. It was arranged that the patient and her husband should stay for some days in a caravan in the healer's garden, with the purpose of giving to the patient new strength and to enjoy peace and freedom from stress. Halfway through one afternoon, the husband came urgently to the healer and asked him to come and help his wife, who was hysterical, acting wildly, and was in danger of hurting herself. The healer with the husband hurried to the caravan where the healer found the lady beside herself and talking wildly. The healer sat down on the bed beside her and tried to take her hand, an action she resented. So the healer sat and listened and said nothing. He did not correct or argue with her. He just listened. And as he listened, so one of his healing guides came very close to him. The wailing agonies of the woman went on, and then, for a moment, stopped. This was the moment the guide was waiting for. He inspired his healer to say to the woman in a firm voice, "Stand up." And he took her hand and she stood up. The healer then took her to the small window and bid her look over the fields to the trees. He continued talking to her about the countryside, and she replied, talking quietly and normally. The healer knew intuitively the entity had gone, and so it was. At the very moment the healer commanded his patient to stand up, the healing guide took over. The healer had got her mind free for the essential moment when the healing guides were able to take the entity away. Now comes the most interesting part of this story. The guides took the man and placed him by himself in a shade. A field of force was formed around it, which the man had not the knowledge how to break. Thus he was confined to the glade and could not go away from it. In this glade were trees, fruits, flowers, bisected with a little stream which ran through it. The man was tired. His mind had been so busily active it wanted to sleep, and this it did. On waking, the man enjoyed all that he had in the glade and liked to welcome the birds that flew around, but after a while his mind turned back towards evil. No longer did he enjoy the flowers, he tore them down and tried to destroy the bushes and trees. Again his mind slept, and when it awoke, he found the birds had gone, the trees were bare, there was no grass, and even the stream had dried up. He began to wish for the glade as it had been, but it was completely bare, all except for one small plant with 2 leaves, and these were dying for want of water. Suddenly the man wanted the leaves to live, and he went to the driedup brook in despair. Feverishly his hands dug down into the stones of the bed of the stream, down and deeper down, when at last he felt wetness on the stones. He dug deeper, and placing his hands down into the deep hole with the palm of his hand stretched upwards, he came as near to praying as he ever could, and slowly he saw a few drops of water gather in the palm of his hand. Carefully he made his way to the little dying plant and let the drops of water moisten the soil near the roots. Hurriedly back to the stream he went again and put his hands down for the water to collect it. He felt as if he would exchange himself for the drops of water, which was as near to a prayer as anything could be. His hand collected a few more drops of water, and so he was able to moisten the soil a little more. This went on for some time, and the leaves began to gather strength from the roots and stood up erect. Again the man slept. He woke with new strength and purpose, as he continued his self-imposed task of laboriously collecting a little water for the plant. As he continued so he found the water came into his hands more freely, and he was able to drop some water on what looked like the dried up wisps of plants which had lived before. They too began to show signs of life, and as the man travelled ceaselessly back and forth from the stream with a little water in his hands, so the plants began to possess new life, and repaid him for his care and attention by growing up and then bringing forth flowers. The stream began to flow more fully. The trees grew new leaves, and the birds came back. The man became happy within himself, and something he had never felt before, and he was contentedly happy. The guides who were helping the man to recover himself were pleased with his progress, and his love and appreciation for his little kingdom. Then they arranged for another phase in the man's search for his own spirit. After tending to the plant life, he returned to his sleeping place for a rest, when he was astonished to find a young boy who looked at him with wistful eyes as if asking for something. The man sat down and drew the boy to him. The boy had just arrived from a very unhappy earth life. He had no parents, and no one cared for him. He had been pushed around, and his life had been one of suffering and misery. The man sat, and the boy became more than friends. The man and the boy became more than friends. They loved each other, and each would serve the other in all the ways they could. When the guides saw this, and that all was now well with both boy and man, they arranged for a small house to be built in the glade to provide a place they could have pride in and become a home for them. Then the energy field which had enclosed the glade was taken away, and the two inseparables were able to travel about, see people, and share in the life of those they visited. But they always returned to their little house in the glade, for that was their home. The master added these words: "That is the kind of service I think you may ultimately do. But before that can be so, there is so much you have to learn and experience, as you find both responsibility and happiness in giving your help to many in need. You will also have to discover the means by which communication is maintained with Earth life and the people there on Earth, some of whom will probably come under your care when they arrive here. It is a work which compels the interests of many people. It is replacing disorder by order, unhappiness with happiness, showing the way for your patients to know a little more about the wonderments which is God." With these words, the master finished his talk with his visitors. They spent further time with him as he took them around his garden, pointing out his special flower friends. John and Mary returned home uplifted and happy. They now had a picture for their future to work for, realizing they still had much to see and learn to qualify them for the service they had to do. This is the end of chapter 14, and chapter 15 is entitled Visit to a Concert and a Library. I hope you have a good Thursday.